Sony wasn't the only company making Walkmans. Other companies like Toshiba made them too. Although they couldn't call theirs a Walkman, they did call theirs a Walky. Let's take a look at one. This is the Toshiba AS15 Walky, because they couldn't call it a Walkman. This is kind of unique, and I got this in to take a look at from a client, and I don't know if it's going to be fixable or not, but we'll take a peek at it and just see whether this thing can be made to do anything other than what it's doing now, which I understand is not much. The neat thing about this was it's a cassette player, but it's also an AM/FM radio, and how Toshiba did things different than, say, Sony was they wanted to make a radio. They're making it was as compact as possible. So the physical size of this is actually very small. It's smaller than a cassette. If you remember the WM10, the WM10 was the size of a cassette box, right? But the big difference, of course, it's not as thin as the WM10. It's a little thicker, but it is certainly smaller in the size department as far as the width of it. The height is going to obviously be about the same. A little bit smaller in terms of height. But what made this one different was, well, the tuner was a separate module. When you opened it up, the tuner module fit inside and was connected by some contacts to some contacts here. So when you played a cassette, the cassette actually stuck out of the actual unit itself. If I put a cassette in, for example, cassette sat in like that and it stuck out like that. So it became a cassette player with the cassette tape sticking out, which kind of made it kind of awkward. You imagine carrying something like this around with a cassette sticking out. You know, recipe for disaster to catch on something, you know. You can imagine carrying this, you know, carrying it in your hand, you whack against a door frame or something, the cassette catches it. Kind of awkward, but at the same time it's kind of neat. So I figured to take a look and see whether this thing is workable or not. It operates with a couple of AA batteries, and from what I understand, the radio part works, but the cassette does not. So let's just verify what's going on with this unit here, and we'll see whether it's something really minor that's wrong with it. So if I turn it on with the tuner pack in place, it should turn on. How do I turn this on? Tape, Dolby, FM stereo, FM mono. I don't know how this thing works. I probably have to plug headphones into it first to make it work. Radio on. Let's just plug some headphones into it. Plugged headphones in and I didn't hear any sound, but what I am noticing is that this thing is getting warm and I can feel heat right here around the battery terminal. So I'm thinking maybe something is shorted out on this thing and it's drawing too much current, because battery terminals should not be getting warm on something like this. I felt heat right in here, which is right where the two batteries are connected together, right? These two are, I think those are the bridge connections between the two. The batteries are in series. So this should be the bridge connection here. Is it not? Yeah, that's the bridge connection. So obviously something is shorting and it's drawing too much current. We'll just quickly take this top off this thing and just take a look and see if there's something that's obvious that's bad with it. The guy that owns it doesn't really want to spend any money, but he collects this thing as a keepsake, so we'll just take a quick peek and see whether there's something that's really obvious that has failed, and maybe, just maybe, it can be made to work. But I'm not holding my breath on this. This is more of a show and tell. We'll take it apart and show you guys what's in it, but I'm not holding my breath that we're going to do anything to it, because I've never worked on one of these before. I don't know what to expect when I open it up, other than the fact that it opens up quite easily. Measure with my meter and just see if there's a short on the input, on the battery input there. Turn it on, I guess might help. Yeah, we had a short. Something shorted on here. I can see the belt is melted for one. There's a reason why that's probably why it's not working. I bet you the motor has to run on this thing even when it's running in radio mode. Who knows? But the belt is shot for sure. You can see that. So for sure it needs a belt. It's turned to goo. Now whether that's all that's wrong, see if the belt is twisted around the motor. It may be that that's what's wrong with it. Is the belt is all wrapped around the motor. We'll take the belt off the motor and see whether that makes the radio work or not. It may be that this turns the motor on at all times, like even when you're using the radio. That would not be beyond Toshiba to do that, because it doesn't seem to have a separate switch to turn off the like to put it into radio mode. So it may very well be that that's all that's wrong, is that the belt is melted, it's wrapped around the motor and seizing up the motor, which of course would then appear as a short across the batteries. Probably one more screw under here somewhere, I'm thinking. And then the guy that owns it, if that's all that's wrong with it, a new belt probably be available at some point. I doubt that I would have one for it, just because of the size of it. I guess another option would be I could disconnect the motor and see if the short went away, but I'll take option A, remove the belt if I can, and see whether that fixes the dead short problem. And then I'll leave it at that for the guy that owns it to decide what he wants to do. Oh yeah, this is seized up right completely from this belt. I take it what happened is he tried to run it. Probably put batteries in it after it's sitting for 30 years. And, let's just try the tape player out. And another thing that could be bad is these tantalum caps. These have a tendency to short. All these tantalum caps have a tendency to dead short. That motor is seized up completely, tight as a drum. So you say, I'm going to get black goo all over the place. I'm not happy right now having to deal with this. That belt wraps all the way around, goes all the way around a pulley over here, or a flywheel over on this side, and then around over this eye over here, and then around another flywheel so that it's got the auto reverse. capability, and then around the motor. Ugh. Horrible. I hate this stuff. I hate it when these belts go like this. Okay, I got that motor as free as I think I'm going to get it. We'll just put the batteries in it and see whether the motor spins and whether the thing works. No, it doesn't even appear to try to turn the motor. Now my hands are all black, and my tools are all black, and the radio is all black. As soon as the power is turned on, it's got a short. I wonder for some of these tantalum caps. Somewhere on this is a dead short. Could be one of the ICs too. Could be anything. Could be the motor drive IC. Could be any part that's shorted. But this one here is, I'm washing my hands of it. This is not worth fixing. Literally now I got to go wash my hands because these are disgusting. When these belts go like this, it's just yeah, they're just a nightmare. My feeling what happened is he tried to run it with the bad belt. It wrapped around the motor, burned out the motor drive IC, and that is the problem with it now. That's my guess. Not worth fixing. Not if you're having to pay to have it fixed. You know, if you're fixing it yourself, that's one thing. But something like this, as a collectible, it's really not. I wouldn't say it's worth nothing. You know, but it's certainly not worth a heck of a lot of money as something that's collectible. Other than maybe for a display piece, it's in it's in pretty good shape for a display piece. But when it's got something failed like this on it, especially with the condition of that, I mean that's a lot of work just to clean that mess out of there. Just to clean the belt, just to change the belt would be expensive. But because of all the mess that's behind, that's left that black goo all throughout the entire path that belt was on. So I'm going to wash my hands of this one. After I wash my hands, that is. Always fun to put these little things together and take them apart. But putting them together is always more fun than taking them apart. Usually. Some of them go together quite easily. That one's not too bad. There we go. And there was one screw missing from this cabinet when he brought it to me. I gotta try and clean all this stupid black crap off of here from the belt. I don't want to put any harsh chemicals on it because I don't want to damage the plastic. Like, you know, alcohol probably is okay, but alcohol is not really that good at removing this black belt crap. You usually just wipe it off. Best thing to remove this stuff from your skin is like baby oil. Baby oil works really good at removing this stuff. Just wet your hands with baby oil and it'll wipe right off. Unfortunately, I don't have any because, you know, there hasn't been any little kids around here that needed baby oil for like, you know, 21 years. So don't have any, but when it was around, it was great stuff. I learned that trick actually from a roofer when I was doing some work years and years ago. I was putting up a satellite dish for a guy, and we had to use like a tar to seal up the holes because he wanted it mounted on his roof, which is something that I didn't really want to do, but customer wanted it mounted on the roof. Customer got it mounted on the roof. He was a roofer himself. So he comes up with the tar, and I ended up with some tar on my hands. And he says, "Oh, here's how to clean this stuff." And he gets out the old Johnson's baby oil and pours it on my hands. He says, "Just wipe your hands together with that, and then rinse them off, and it takes this stuff off like magic." Anyway, that little Toshiba Walky back together. Got a short somewhere in it, and it needs a belt, so we'll leave it at that. And we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.